I would just say it's a different word. I forgot.
This is it.
Yes. It's not working?
No.
All right, might want to, I guess we can always go old school.
Well, it's also inconvenient on the plane and cars.
Yeah, I mean, they're on the
Sometimes I want to be told like
on the bus, like in certain countries, like they're especially with the populations of like in a lower average height, like you're always like hunched over. It comes in handy when you're waking off though. Oh man, this thing is it's upside down because they used it. Yeah, but we're gonna Amin would know how to change it.
Oh, we had the same problem the other night.
Yeah.
I don't know if they ever resolved it.
No, I mean, if they turned it right side up, I'm sure there's a way to turn it upside down.
I believe there should be a button.
There should be a button to do it. I would imagine.
I'd like to see if you said something was in the settings, but we had that
Setting extended.
we had that event last week. I don't even know if they have
I can't. Where would I even look?
Settings here.
Do you know how to turn this upside down?
I did it from the computer.
See?
Yeah. Maybe.
We had that call last week, earlier this week.
Projection.
Go to projection.
Yeah, I'm here. Okay.
Go down, down, down.
Front.
Entry, yeah. And then put it on the front ceiling.
Oh, okay. There we go. Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair.
See, yeah, that's why I say Yusuf. Yeah,
Yeah, you remember I said.
No, I figured it had to be a setting. And there we go. All right. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. So warning Muslims of evil. This is something that we had started speaking about and discussing last time, and we had left off with the innovator, and we said that one of the problems with warning against the innovator is what? Number one, how do you define an innovation? This is something that's really important. And secondly, how do you actually apply that to say that if somebody is an innovator or not? And many times what happens is that an individual can be declared an innovator, and then what do I do as a layperson? I will take whatever the sheikh says, and I will now apply it to that person. Not only will I apply it to that person, but I'll also apply it to who? To anybody that sits with and attends that person's classes. And what happens is you end up having this chain reaction of warning from an entire group of people that, number one, we're not warned from, because an innovator actually applies to an individual. You can't apply it to a lay Muslim. A lay Muslim, why? Because he doesn't have the tools to ijtihad, right? He doesn't actually have the tools to differentiate between that, so this idea of staying away from the innovation or staying away from an innovator, it makes sense. It would make sense in the context if this person actually had the academic tools to defend his innovation or defend the idea that he's behind or standing behind. Also, dealing with these people, it really depends on the nature and the type of relationship that you're looking to establish. Now, what if it's my uncle? What if it's a colleague? What if it's someone who I'm looking to build a political alliance with? Do those same rules apply in the same exact way? These are all things that are very important to keep in mind when we deal with each other and when we deal with others. It's not a blanket ruling. Also, if I don't know the reasoning of why I'm warning from someone, then most likely the reasoning is jealousy. And that jealousy can be because I don't like this person's status. This person is more popular than me. This person is more accomplished than me. This person has written more books than I have. And just like those traits of jealousy, they can apply to me. Who else can they apply to? they can apply to that scholar who's making the ruler that this person is an innovator. And it's very real, right? Jealousy, it's not something that the scholars are protected from, right? It's not something that the clergy are protected from. Everybody can fall into jealousy. So this idea or this discussion of innovation in and of itself, it's something that is very, it's a deeper discussion than many times we look at it superficially. Even how to declare, what are the conditions for declaring someone an innovator? Who are the people who can actually declare someone an innovator? And not just that, after that, Radd al-Mukhalif, like, for those people that are opposed us or against us, what are the areas or what are the spaces that we actually can work in together? Like, so for example, if we have a local Shiite community, what should I do as a Sunni? What are some things? Should that community be avoided and excommunicated? Are there certain spaces that we can work in, or do we work with them fully? Like, these are in general the three, right? Either it's going to be full, partial, or not. What do you guys think?
On certain issues, we should work together because
Okay.
we are a minority in America and there's no place and time
Sure.
to have this interest.
Let's say we're not a minority. Let's say that let's say in the United States, it's 50-50, right? So there half of the Sunni population, half of the Muslim population is Sunni, half of the Muslim population is Shia. Now, how would that change your perspective?
I personally still
Uh-huh.
follow these. Like, they have their own difference, their own opinion. We have
Sure.
our own opinion.
Sure.
We keep our Muslim brotherhood, friendliness.
Yeah.
But they can run their own masjid. We are running our own masjid.
Sure.
They are welcome to us. And
Uh-huh.
I would be happy to visit their mosque as well.
Okay, so you have no problem keeping a social connection. The problem the problem that I'm seeing is the religious one, right?
They should be tolerant. They should be respectful.
Sure.
Disagreement. But
Yeah.
they should be respectful.
So here let's define that even further. Within a religious capacity, how could I work with them? So would it make sense for me now to open up a Islamic school with the local Shia masjid?
That would be problematic.
It would be problematic.
The
Okay.
curricula,
Okay.
would be different
Sure.
curriculum.
No problem.
That would be different.
What do you think? Is it an idea that's worth exploring?
I think that it has possibilities.
Okay.
Because just looking at the historical aspect of the Muslim Ummah in general, when they in Medina and Mecca,
Yes.
with the Yahuds and
Absolutely.
other people, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he found ways of working with these communities to strengthen.
No, and those are people who are not Muslim.
Yes,
Right.
so I'm saying that if you can work with people who are not Muslim,
Absolutely.
most certainly you can work with people who are Muslim, even though we have general differences, and at some point you will be able to strengthen the bonds and possibly improve the Islam.
Absolutely, I agree with that 100%. Not just that, in generally during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there were two types of Muslims. Who were they? There were the Munafiqeen and the rest of the rest of the Muslims that were there. Did the Prophet ﷺ exclude the Munafiqeen from activities? No. And the Munafiqeen were people who actually didn't believe. Right? So this is something that's important to keep in mind. Now, as for the one who is Shi'i, right? So we as Sunnis, we believe that Sunni Islam is the correct understanding and is the correct way to draw and get near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like, for this Shi'i, what does he believe? He believes the same thing, right? He believes the same exact thing. And is it possible that he's sincere?
Yes.
Absolutely, right? Yeah. Why? Because he's still Muslim, right? There's nobody here that's going to say that this individual is not Muslim. And as such, we have to deal with him as Muslim. Doesn't mean, and forget the Shi'i now, even within another Sunni, is everything going to overlap with another Sunni? No. Like, even now amongst the Sunni community, does every organization have 100% transparency and they all work together and we all just walk around kumbaya?
We have some of the biggest
we probably have bigger problems. We probably have more problems with each other than we do with the Shia. And the reason I say that is not because I want to say, oh no, we should all work together, but it helps us kind of define what spaces we can work together. So if like you guys said, opening up an Islamic center, would that make sense? Together?
Like you say, you have your it takes a lot of work.
People
want to put in that amount of work.
I'm saying it takes a lot of work. In general, do you think it's worth it?
No.
I don't think so either, right? So for me, it wouldn't make sense to open up a shared worship center where you have Sunni and Shia come. What about a community center? A community center could work, right? Because it's general, and you don't have those same religious functions that you would at like at a masjid, right? So if you had like an Islamic center, a masjid, you'd have problems for Jummah, you'd have problems for Ashura, you'd have like you'd have series of problems that why take on that headache? It doesn't make sense. And even the things you were talking about, if we have a weekend school, like curriculum, what is it that you're going to teach? Because their belief system, they have a number of things that are fundamentally different than what we believe. Does it make sense? Again, is it worth it? And most of the time, the answer is going to be no. Like, what if they want to open up a soup kitchen? I'm sorry?
There's nothing wrong with it.
Right. There's not going to be anything. Why? Because there's no, is there going to be any conflict there? No, in general, there's not going to be conflict. They're not going to be like, oh, well, we only serve this type of poor, right? In general, you're not going to have that problem. Everybody wants to work together, but so it's important for us to help define what those spaces are. And other things actually come from this. I don't know if you guys know, the intermarriage between the Sunnis and Shia, does it happen?
Yes.
Yeah, it does. It actually happens. It probably, I won't say it's like a large percentage, but it happens at a higher rate than many of us are even aware of. Like, I'm not saying that is something that is encouraged, right? Is it permissible? Yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's a difference or a problem in that. Are they probably going to have more issues than a Sunni couple would? Probably, yeah, there's a chance, right? Depending on their in-laws. But like, what I mean? Like, but in general, like human beings are human beings, and two Muslims, they are allowed to get married. Is it something I would encourage? No, it's not something I would encourage. It's actually something I would discourage. Yeah.
In Dearborn,
Uh-huh.
there's a huge Shia population.
Yeah.
And there's also Sunni
Uh-huh.
population. And that's where I found out that I didn't know that a lot of marriages.
They intermarry. Yeah. It's very common. Like I'm saying,
school together.
I mean, it's the same thing in my parents grew up in Karachi in Pakistan, and it's like 70-30, like Sunni Shia. Over there, my parents grew up with like a lot of Shia friends. So what would happen on Ashura, like they would go do their Ashura thing and my parents would go home. Like, like that's just how it was. Why? Because when it came to religious events, they would kind of separate, but social events, this is when they would come together, and this was where they would actually hang out and they would spend time. So applications, we had started talking about this. When it comes to hiring someone, if somebody's known to be, what if somebody's accused of being a thief? Would you hire him?
Well, you gotta be a due diligence and keep in mind that might be rumors.
Okay.
Unjustified.
So what if I didn't hire him based on that rumor?
That wouldn't be correct.
You don't feel it would be correct?
No, I mean, as he said, 50-50. I don't think you would be wrong.
Okay. And this is the point I wanted to get to.
You would be wrong.
Why? How come I wouldn't be wrong? Am I accusing him of being a thief?
Depending on, especially if that person's personality and background, probability of being.
So, I mean, the thing is, doing your due diligence is something that's really important. But at the end of the day, listen, I have a lot of applications. This guy comes, he's accused of being a thief. And I have like 12 other applicants.
You can look at the other applicants.
Right. I would probably look at the other applicants and see where they stand, where they go. And like, but will that accusation kind of bring him a notch down in my eyes?
Yes.
Yeah, it would. But at the end of the day, am I saying he's a thief?
No.
And this is what's important. Just because an accusation has reached me, it doesn't mean that I'm actually confirming that accusation and saying that he actually is a thief. But just the fact that there's an accusation there, it's enough for me to take precaution for that issue. Or somebody's a sinner, other work-related issues, right? These are things that are important. Another thing that's in this society, like if somebody applies and they say that they're a homosexual, what do I do in that situation?
Well, it doesn't have connection to work.
It doesn't affect the work, right? And not just that, if this person is a homosexual and a non-Muslim, he has bigger problems, right? Like he doesn't believe in Allah. That's his biggest issue, right? His sexuality, is it problematic? Yes, it is, but that's not his biggest issue. His biggest issue is the fact that he doesn't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Silence actually harms the hiring party. What does that mean? He basically here he's talking about is keeping people hanging. When I don't give people a clear answer, when I give people a clear answer, it might hurt. Yes. If I tell someone no, like, listen, I'm not going to hire you. Is it going to hurt? Is it better for me to string this person along and not say anything though?
Yeah,
No, absolutely not.
Say no.
Right. It's better to be clear from the beginning. Why? Because now I've given this person other options and they can now decide on the direction that they want to move in. But just stringing them along, this is actually a type of oppression. This is a type of law. And this is something that's not permissible. Yeah.
Culturally, we do a lot.
And
of
we do this a
stringing
lot.
along.
No, we do a lot of stringing along. Why? Because we're shy to say no. We're like, oh, we don't want to hurt their feelings. It's like, okay, yeah, but like stringing them along is making it's actually worse.
You're giving them hope.
Right? Because you keep giving them hope. And eventually when they do find out, right? So you string someone along, and they hear no here versus here, what happens? It's more devastating, right? It hurts more because you were building up those increments of hope over that period of time.
And that is especially true in relationships. It is a type of business.
Yeah.
When it turns ghost.
No.
There's even a
So
worse-
in this, all of the business things here, it applies to marriage too.
Oh, okay, there you go. Okay.
Right? It applies to marriage too. And what do I mean by that? It's like, oh, I thought he was going to change. Wait a minute, what indications did you have that he was going to change?
I
Yeah.
lost what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Let them go and take them back.
Ah.
Don't back and forth.
Don't go back and
It's the
forth.
same thing.
I'm saying one of the reasons that Islam came and put a limitation on 3. Now think about that, right? Islam came and it actually limited to 3. Before it was unlimited. Like you could divorce and remarry as much as you wanted. Islam came and limited to 3. Why?
Because people were taking advantage.
Because
of
people are
that.
playing and people are taking advantage. And that's exactly what this is. So when you look at, and this is why you have business and marriage, even in the fiqh books, it's under mu'amalat, right? All of these transactions that happen, it happens under this larger, broader category. Why? Because there's an exchange that's happening. There's a relationship that's there. And because of that relationship, there are a number of decisions that we all make. And the same thing applies to marriage. Like, it's very, very important in marriage that I make a decision, because if I don't make a decision, either I'm going to be stringing my husband along or I'm going to be stringing my wife along. And this is extremely problematic. It's better for me just to make a decision, because subhanAllah, one of the amazing things that how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually frames marriage and how he frames divorce is what does he surround them around? This, not just rahmah, taqwa. Why? Because when I'm angry, when I'm upset, when all of those feelings that I have, what is the only thing that's going to rein me in? Right, it's going to be Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because when I'm in that point, when I'm angry and upset, I feel that my spouse has hurt me. I feel that my spouse has abused me. I feel that my spouse has taken advantage of me. What is the only thing that's going to keep me just? Is to remember that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching over me. He's watching over my reactions and actions. Because usually what happens with a couple that gets a divorce, when they don't remember Allah in that moment, who gets hurt the most? The children. Why? Because the children become pawns. How can I use the children to hurt my husband? Or how can I use the children to hurt my wife? And this is exactly what happens. And as for situations where there are no children involved, it tends to be cleaner. Why? Because there's nothing connecting them. Right. And it's easier to walk away. Not to say that it's not painful, it doesn't hurt, but it's easier. It's definitely easier to walk away. Yes, you were gonna say something?
Is there a difference between taqwa and sabr?
Yes. So taqwa is just an awareness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A sabr is like a manifestation of it.
So when you say taqwa in this case,
Yeah.
would you also encourage sabr?
Sure. So taqwa in essence is God consciousness, right? That's basically in summary what it is. It's just remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at all moments and in all things. Sabr is it's a channeling of an emotional response. It's emotional intelligence, essentially. Like the concept of sabr is emotional intelligence, that when something happens to me, how do I react? And it is in that moment that sabr is shown. That is where my emotional intelligence will come in. And what is going to bolster my emotional intelligence? My taqwa. Does that help? Having references, in everything. And I know for those of you who have attended sessions where people take shahada, for me, what is the one piece of advice I always give them?
Muslims are Islam. Islam isn't Muslim.
Right. Islam is perfect. Muslims are not. Just because somebody's Muslim, it doesn't make him a good mechanic, right? Just because somebody's Muslim, it doesn't make him a good person, right? Just because he's an imam, it doesn't mean that he's righteous. And these are very important things. Just because we put a label on something, it doesn't mean that everything that should be with that label is present, right? You can go through the ingredients, but it's not necessary. All of the ingredients are actually there. And this is why it's always important to have references to whatever issues that we have, even in Islam. Why is it important to have references? Why is it important to have witnesses? Because you need people to verify accounts. You need people to verify transactions. You need people to verify marriages, whether that they've happened or not. There are a couple of narrations here that I want you to say. Are you hesitant in mentioning a sinner? Expose him to the people to the point that others are able to warn from him. In 3 people, there is no backbiting: the oppressive leader, the innovator, and the one who boasts of his sins. Any questions on these narrations? Over here, the sinner, he's talking about the open sinner, right? He's not talking about, because how would I know? How would I even know he's a sinner if he's doing it privately? Let's say somebody has a porn addiction problem. In general, where do people who have this problem, where do they watch it? They watch it privately. Like, if I stumble upon somebody who's watching porn, should I go give a khutbah? Be like, guess what I saw? Huh? I saw Khalid. He was watching something he shouldn't have been seeing. Is that appropriate? No. Why?
You stumble upon something he was doing in secret.
Right. He was hiding it. Like, he himself was hiding it. He wasn't trying to expose it to the people.
I was just going to share. I had a case of, the wife accusing the husband.
Yeah.
It was a divorce matter.
Yeah.
And in the protection order court hearing, the husband actually brought his girlfriend to say they were watching naked vegetables. Just wanted to say.
I don't even know what that means, but
like there's a show called Naked Vegetables.
I'm not
They
even
actually
familiar.
use that as evidence.
Okay.
Yeah.
Allah protect us.
Yeah.
So one case I had is the husband accused the wife of zina.
Oh.
And I said, Salamat. I said, what happened? He's like, Imam, she was watching porn. I was like, okay, that's not, I was like, that's not zina. I was like, I'm not saying that's right. Like, what she did was wrong, but that's not zina. Like, there's a big difference. You can't accuse her of doing that. I'm not justifying what she did. What she did was absolutely wrong. She should seek tawbah, you know what I mean? And she should stay away from it. But don't confuse. I said zina of the eyes, yes, but not like zina. Like, this is a big difference. Yeah, they're 2 different things. Allah musta'an. But yeah, so I guess when there's like feelings and emotions, people, they just kind of say things that they don't mean. But these things are important to keep in mind. Again, the leader, why? Because he's doing things publicly. So speaking about him publicly isn't problematic. Yes.
And even I know in the Sharia it talks about, and it doesn't always use oppressive.
Yeah.
It used the leader because he's in a political.
Yeah, he's a public figure. Over here, I honestly would put anybody who is a public figure. Because they're putting themselves, like, a public figure is volunteering to put himself in front of the people. No, nobody's held a gun to their head and be like, no, you have to be the mayor, right? It's like, or you have to be an imam, or you have to be like, on the national circuit. These are all personal choices. And the moment a person enters the personal sphere, they have to be open to criticism. They have to be. They cannot say, oh, I'm so and so. What? You're
here, but over here I'm somebody else.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, and it's like, what, you're so. It's like and the thing is, are there limits to it? What do you think?
Of course,
sure. What are some of the limits for a public figure?
I think that the topic should be related to whatever it is that he's relating to in the public, and not his private.
Absolutely. So whatever he does in the public sphere, that is public property. But whatever he's doing in his private life, right, that should be private. So what about all these scandals that we have with certain imams and certain figures? Could that be argued that was his private life?
Some of these imams are so
blatant.
Yeah, I mean, now the way they're out on the internet and the subjects that they're covering, if I cover something about marriage to a degree, and then it comes out that my marriage has these deficiencies, the same things
that you're talking about.
Yeah, so I think that at some point they're putting themselves out there so much that they're leaving themselves open.
You're kind of putting your foot in your mouth, right?
Yeah, I think that they're leaving themselves open.
It's like you're talking about the importance of marriage and chastity, and then he's cheating with someone.
Yeah.
So yes, that is his private life, but what happens is that it actually has an effect on the value of his speech.
Yes, practice what you
right? Because it's not practicing what you preach. تأمرون الناس بالبر وتنسون أنفسكم وأنتم تتلون الكتاب. It's like you order the people to do good, and you yourself don't do any of it.
And I read a book,
Yeah.
I forget what it was, and one of the things it says, the dangers, Imam Ghazāli, of course, he always said the dangers of being a preacher.
Yeah.
He said to be careful, you know what I mean, to practice before you
preach. Absolutely.
You know, to study and practice the things before you preach them.
Yeah, subhanAllah. Like the one of the things I always hear is like during my khutbah is I'm just waiting for my wife in the back to like throw a tomato at me. Allah make us sincere.
You know,
Yes.
There's a new person that joined and she's asking, what is this class? Do you mind just saying?
Sure. Just have her ask her to be added to the group, inshallah, and we'll share her the short introduction of what the class is. The last thing, nickname highlighting his shortcomings. So sometimes there's somebody who we grow up with and we kind of nicknamed him like Shorty. It's like, hey, where's Shorty? This type of nicknaming, is it amplifying like a positive trait of that person? No, right? The fact that he's short is not, it's not a praise. It's something that's actually dispraised, but it's something that's allowed in the Sharia. Why? Because he no longer takes it as offensive, right? He's no longer takes it as offensive. And we have like a number of examples of this. So Al-A'raj was a very, very famous scholar. A'raj means crippled, but he just he came to be known as Al-A'raj. And A'mash is weak-eyed. And he became like, these are very famous scholars, very famous hadith scholars who narrated. People used to go to them and study with them. And then they would say that I am narrating from the weak-eyed, or I am narrating from the crippled. And this is how they were known amongst the hadith circles. And they themselves, they didn't have a problem with it. There are even certain scholars who are ascribed to their mothers, like Ibn Ulayya, right? He was very famously Shafi's teacher, and he was known to be ascribed to his mother. That in Arab culture is like super, super ape. It's super strange. Why? Because when somebody's ascribed to their mother, that's usually what? Right? It's usually an insult, because you're saying that basically that this person is a bastard, right? He doesn't have a father. Ibn Ulayya had a father. He just became famous because of through his mother. And again, they became famous for these nicknames. They were not opposed to him. Ibn Ulayya actually was. Unfortunately, he just became famous like that. Imam Shafi'i, actually, when he used to address him, he would say the one they call Ibn Ulayya. He would, like, whenever he took his teacher's name, he would say the one they call Ibn Ulayya, out of respect, for his teacher, because he knew his teacher didn't like that name. So it's always better to find a better way to describe someone. But the problem is sometimes there are certain names that just stick, right? And there's very little that can be done about them. Abu Huraira. So that's like it's kind of neutral, right? It's kind of neutral, but like, the one who takes care of like kittens, it's not it's not the most beloved name. So pointing out someone who's proud of his sins. Like, what do you guys think about these? These are the ones that he mentions very specifically. A cross-dresser is like somebody who, a man who wears women's clothing in public. All of these people, of course, I'm a Muslim.
I don't think that's the problem, because they're doing these public displays.
Because they're doing it publicly, right? These people have no shame. Like, that this is a brothel, and you see a man strutting in, right? He's just walking in. It's not like, he's wearing a hat, like, trying to hide or like sneak in. You see him walking in every day. He frequents it. Everybody asks, like, where's so-and-so? Oh, he's at the brothel. Like, and it's just become public knowledge and public information at that point.
Maybe he's a janitor there.
I'm sorry?
Maybe he's a janitor.
Maybe he's a janitor there. Allah. He needs to find another job, man.
Or maybe he's going and paying.
Allah Akbar. Look at
Saving men from-
look at the husn al-dhan. Or maybe he's doing dawah. He's doing dawah to the prostitutes that are there. MashaAllah. So righteous. Yes, Yafi. A brothel is a place where you go and you commit zina. You pay to commit zina.
I never heard of it.
Yeah.
The worst.
Welcome to Tazkīyah. So yeah, all of these things are important. Like, you have people who just seize other people's property, people who seize other people's items and things, and they're just not shy. So it is okay for us to talk about them. But again, in what scope am I going to speak about these people?
Maybe as a teaching tool.
Okay.
If you don't do
Right.
that.
You can use them as examples. That's one way. What else?
One thing why you need to report them is it's public and it should not be normalized, and this is why someone has to come up and criticize
Sure.
what they do.
Yeah, I saw it's very similar along the lines of what Fazia is saying. Like they're examples. There's no doubt about that. I can't really think of any other reason that you would talk about such people, right? Other than using them as a bad example to say this is how you shouldn't be.
It's like when Will did that slap on the other day and it was all over the news.
Yeah.
And then it got to be a point where people still talking about this.
So what's interesting about media attention span, you never know how long something will last, and you don't know what is going to become famous and what people are going to forget about.
Because things are, they've had things far worse than what he.
Yeah, for sure.
That they don't even get the media.
Did you?
I can kill somebody.
Yeah,
and I don't get.
And it'll be forgotten a couple of days later. And not just, I don't know if you guys heard this. Like I'm talking, there was a representative, one of the new youngest representatives in Congress. He said he was invited to an orgy. I don't know if you guys know about this.
Where in Congress?
In Congress.
Whoa.
So, and look, like everybody's like, really?
I didn't hear.
Yeah,
And I don't know if I misheard.
Yeah.
So,
No. So, and the thing is, like, he was, and the amazing thing is like the number of congressmen who are actually responding to him. If it wasn't true, you would assume that people would just ignore it. It's actually more worrying the amount of attention it's getting from Congress and the lack of attention it's getting from outside. We're very fickle, like, so media attention, people's attention, it is very, very fickle. We never know what is going to trend. It's amazing. Yeah, like you said, the slap. Yeah, it's still trending, right? It's still turning into memes. People are still using it. People are taking a deep dive into like Will Smith's career now and like into his wife's career. It's like, who did know? They've become more famous, like if anything.
Or his book actually, the top bestseller now.
Oh, really?
I was shocked. I thought it would be like thousands, but no, it's actually bestselling.
And it just shows how fickle people are, and it shows like our attention spans, how they're always willing to adjust so quickly.
Also, I heard the pharmaceutical company is promoting alopecia meds.
I mean, everybody's going to jump on the opportunity to make money, right? Who I have yet to find someone who doesn't want to capitalize on situations, and if they can, they're definitely going to try to. But yeah, so like I said, using people as examples, it makes sense when they're in the public sphere. I can't really think of any other use for that. And if a person who frequents a brothel, does it make sense for me to talk about, like, that he's, oh, look how lanky he is? No, right? That has nothing to do. It's not going to benefit the conversation at all. All of these things, it's not an open license to backbite. Yes.
Can you say unless it's affecting their family? Like, what if?
What is affecting the community?
It's affecting their family, and then it's.
Sure. What if it's affecting the community?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so obviously there are different types of sins that are of different levels. Something like this, if it's known and we see somebody that is frequenting a brothel, and it becomes community knowledge, but his wife doesn't know.
What if all his money's going there and then his wife ends up with social services?
Well, I mean,
that's
the point I wanted to get to. So over here, it's become public knowledge. Everybody knows. Should this person's wife be approached?
Yes.
Absolutely, right? There's harm, like she can catch an STD, right? You know what I mean? Like there are so many possible harms that can reach her, and it's very important at that point to definitely report him to the wife and say, hey, listen, this is what's going on. Yes.
So obviously there's like etiquette to doing this stuff, but if somebody were to approach her, does it matter who?
Ideally, who should approach her? Someone close to her, right? And I think this is a theme that we've kind of been pushing throughout, that somebody who's close to her. Like, you go to the person who's close to her and be like, hey, dude, like you need to talk to her, and she's like, no, like I can't do that. Then what?
And I think one of the possible setbacks of this is making sure that a person has factual information and not
Sure,
gossip.
for sure.
Because people tend to pass to gossip
Yeah.
instead of factual information.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and so I could say that possibility that your husband is doing this,
Mhm.
or possibility that your wife
Sure.
is doing that this should be, as you said, that something is
Mhm.
substantiated. In fact,
No, absolutely. Right. You know, so I'm more than welcome to take an accusation, but if the accusation turns out to be false, what happens?
you harm both people.
Right. I've harmed both people. And who else have I harmed?
Yourself.
Myself. Right. Because now that person, like the relationship that I had, that trust, and we had talked about trust always being like a very fragile vessel. I've harmed that trust. I've broken that relationship as well. So I've managed to break 3 relationships in one go. And they're very, these are very nuanced things. It's not as easy sometimes, like, well, yeah, you need to report him. And okay, well, is it true? It turns out to be true, and the news reaches the wife. What can she do? What are her choices? Yes.
Okay, it has nothing to do with the answer to this question because I don't know that.
Uh-huh.
But say, like you said, you give a scenario that the entire community knows, but the wife doesn't know. Say somebody's seen the husband or the wife cheating or something.
Yeah.
Now, is it up to this person to, and nobody else knows?
So
They've witnessed this.
number one, you can't affirm the cheating, right? What is the only thing you can actually affirm? That you saw them together, right? Unless you like walked into the room, like, you know what I mean? But there's no 100% way of confirming this, because even if you want to take it to that level, how many witnesses do I need? Right? I need 4 witnesses at that point. I can't even use that. I can say for sure, I was like, listen, I saw them together. You know what I mean? And I saw them spending a lot of time together. Like, there are a lot of things that can be used to hint or indicate that, but having that confirmation or that absolute truth, that's something that in this situation can be very, very challenging, unless he admits it to himself, or he just tells people like, yeah, I go every night. You know what I mean? Like, then that's different, because now he's admitting it. Like, so what choices does she have now? Right, she can forgive him. Like, and as difficult as it might sound for many of us, she has that choice. Like, that's her right.
She can divorce him or forgive him.
Yep.
She cannot forgive him.
Yeah. And she even divorce him. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can she forgive him? I mean, can she not forgive him and stay with him?
No, we could do that.
Yes, no. Yes. Okay. Yes. How? No.
She could do it by doing it. She shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's different. That's our viewpoint. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we don't know her situation. So let's just
I mean,
maybe.
wouldn't that be like leaving the guy hanging?
I don't know. So Nazim, go. Let's. I'd like to hear your viewpoint.
We're talking technically speaking, legally speaking. Can she remain with him and still not forgive? Sure.
Okay.
What if she's in a difficult situation? Can I go out? She cannot afford.
Sure.
That's it. She's
Okay.
no choice.
Or what if she decides not to forgive him and say, okay, I'm going to hold you accountable in front of Allah, but this is not enough for me to require a break in the marriage.
It's up to her.
She can do that.
She can do that. I mean, I think it's a tough balance,
Yeah.
For sure. Without looking at him every time and like, thinking, I think that takes a lot. And more power to her. But anyway, so these are technically the choices that she has, and not everything is black and white. Sometimes there are very challenging scenarios.
Is this happening in the community?
So I had a
Are you new to the community?
Kind of,
so there was a woman who came to me, and she told me her husband actually had gone to see a prostitute, and he told her that he went to see a prostitute. And she was like, what do I do? I was like, what do you want to do? She was like, well, I can't stay with him, and I want to divorce him and stuff. I said, okay, if that's what you want to do, you have every right to seek that. Your health and your, obviously your loyalties were broken here. And she was like, okay, well, I sponsored him. He's come from overseas and I'm his sponsor. And if I divorce him, he's going to be kicked out. And I was like, yeah, he should have thought of that before he went to the prostitute. This is not your fault. If anything, you were helping him and you were sponsoring him, and if he had a problem, he should have came and spoke to you, before he fell into this situation. So yes, it is happening.
It's all
Yeah.
over the
Oh, it's
world.
all over, yeah.
not
Yeah,
just
and it's not just
America.
here. This is
It's all over the
so
world.
the thing here. Let me put it this way.
I just think of why people would go
So-
mess up someone's relationship.
Because every no, I'm saying like
That
I'm saying like here for sometimes for us it's very difficult to imagine these things. No, I'm being very honest. But you have to realize we're people who come to the masjid,
right.
right? We're people who are religious. Like we have some attachment. Like what about all these people who don't? What is stopping them? Very honestly, what community is stopping them? What is holding them back? You know, what reminders are they receiving? There was a brother who came to me. There is a girl who was going out with his son. The girl's mother paid for a weekend getaway for them.
Wait, can you repeat that?
The girls.
The girl's mother paid for a weekend getaway for her daughter and this guy with no intention of marriage.
The
This
girl
is a
is Muslim and
Muslim.
the mother is Muslim.
Yeah. They're all Muslim. All Muslim.
I mean, you'd be surprised.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not
in
like,
Israel.
I'm an imam, so I don't really get surprised by anything. So, but at the same time, no, but at the same time, I don't. No, unfortunately, it is very common. And the only thing that I would keep in mind, it's like I don't. I mean, I don't judge because I don't know what these people's background is. I don't know what situations they're in, and not just that. Like you have this young man, and he's being, you know, what I mean, like he's being told to go spend time with this girl he already likes. What is going to restrain him? What is pulling him back? Right? Right. If anything, it's going to be his taqwa, right? In that situation, like if somebody who hasn't been raised on that, what kind of taqwa is embedded in his heart that is going to prevent him from falling into it?
There's no topic because people, what happens is that this is the thing that we're talking about, encourage us to be
Yeah.
with the Jama'ah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because this builds the taqwa, it builds
Absolutely.
certain
Absolutely.
characters that we
No,
need.
and it builds social responsibility.
And people
Right.
don't have it.
Right. It builds social responsibility because what is the purpose of surrounding myself with people who are going to remind me with good things? So I stay away from bad things. And not just that, if I'm with good people usually do good things. And I'm doing good things with them. Like I'm going to be attending classes with them. I'm going to be playing basketball with them. I'm going to go watch a movie with them. I'm going to go out to eat with them. Right. I'm doing good things.
Of being here just to hear the things we're talking
Right.
about. Nobody come here and even hear
Mhm.
these topics.
Yeah.
Any
So
level.
just imagine you guys have a reminder, at least if you just come to this class, you have a Islamic reminder once a week. Imagine somebody who never receives it. Like how deprived a livelihood would that person have? And how clear would that person's decisions be?
They have Shaitan as a companion.
Right. That's exactly what it is. If he doesn't have other Muslims as a companion, the only companion he has is the shaitan. And that shaitan is going to prey on that person just like, you know, a weak lamb. He's fallen back. And the thing is, again, I'm not here to judge because I don't know what that person's background is. I don't know what kind of exposure they've had. I don't know what efforts they themselves have made. Like everybody's in a different place. Saying that, you know, just because, you know, a child or a son or daughter, if they fall into zina, is it bad? Yeah, absolutely, it's bad. But as a parent, what do you do? Right, you teach them how to make tawbah, and you also have to teach them, like, listen, your decisions have consequences. Now that you've made zina, your ability to marry is going to be affected. You're not going to have the same availability as you did before. Like, these are consequences. If you steal, what's gonna happen? You might have to spend time in jail. You will have a criminal record. Like, do you have? Yes, you make tawbah and you're good with Allah. It doesn't mean you're good with people. And everything has consequences, and these are things that sometimes it's very easy for us to forget.
One thing though, I
Sure.
always remind myself, I'm not surprised by any sins today's people commit. Certain Sahaba had certain issues.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Addiction,
Yeah.
zina thing.
Yeah.
I mean, they were way better than us, and they still.
Well,
fell in
I
that.
would say they had access to better things than, like, they had access to better spiritual tools than we did.
That's
right?
yeah.
But at the same time, like they were human.
Yeah.
They were a society. They had problems. They had issues. Like, people think back at the time of the companions, like it was like this amazing time, and like women were still dying from childbirth. Like, like it wasn't.
Revealed
Uh-huh.
for that purpose.
Yeah.
Because they didn't do things.
Yeah, but exactly.
And not in the vacuum. It was revealed
Because they had
facing all
problems.
these problems.
Yeah, they had these societal problems. Therefore, Allah revealed these things to help curb some of those societal problems that they were facing. Does it mean the societal problems ended? No. It means, like, did they lessen? Absolutely, to a huge degree. But it doesn't mean that the problems were completely erased. Here are some narrations that he closes the chapter with. He said, Umar said that there's no sanctity for the open sinner, meaning that you can speak about him. Asalt ibn Tarif said to Al-Hasan, is mentioning a sinner who talks about his sins backbiting? He said, no, but it is not noble either. And if you're spending and just constantly using your time to talk about that person and about that sin, it is not beneficial. To use them as an occasional example of how not to be, that is a much more beneficial use of time. Al-Hasan said that there are three where backbiting does not apply: one who openly follows his desires, one who openly discusses a sin, and an oppressive ruler. Very similar to the prophetic narration that we mentioned earlier. All of these individuals share the fact that they are proud and boastful of their sins, right? Or, even the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said there is no tawbah for a few people. One of them is a lying leader, or a leader who lies. Why? Because there's nothing pressuring him to lie, right? He's the leader. He's in charge. There's nothing. Or a Sheikh Zanin, somebody like an old man who's committing zina. Why? He doesn't have the same level of desire. It doesn't make sense that he would go and he would make zina. Lastly, Auf visited Ibn Sirin, who was hosting some Hujjaj. Ibn Sirin said, Allah is wise and just and will have recompense toward anyone who has backbitten his Hujjaj, as he will hold any of the Hujjaj that have been oppressive toward others accountable. If you meet Allah tomorrow, then the smallest sin you have committed will be harder on you than the greatest sin committed by the Hujjaj. And the Hujjaj are people who are on their way to be completely cleansed of their sins. So this shows the gravity of backbiting and talking toward others and talking about others. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us.
Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, sure.
Hujjaj, how do you know?
The Hujjaj, the people who are making Hajj. So what is,
Okay.
so what is the reward for making Hajj?
Expiation of all sins.
Right, it's expiation for all sins. It's as if you were born that day, if your Hajj is accepted, etc.
Including a heavy makna with you.
Is it, this is off topic, but is Umrah the same with Hajj? Do you get the same expiation? Like,
No, Hajj is,
I know I missed some.
Hajj is like full expiation.
yeah, yes.
Is this any, like if I just go to Hajj, that's given? Or do I have
Can you guarantee is accepted?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to understand.
No, so
Someone hears like this, oh, I will go to Hajj
Yeah.
this time around.
Mhm.
I'll be reborn like nothing
Sure.
happened.
No, I'm saying, and
Is that what it is?
I'm saying I only have one question. Can you guarantee that it was accepted?
That's what I'm asking you because I don't know.
We can't. We just make an effort and we hope and we try and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept. Okay. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq and protect us from backbiting. Inshallah, next time we'll be talking about how to expiate for backbiting.
I have a
Yes.
question about Namima.
Sure. Namima is the next. It's actually the next chapter.
Okay, well, I just wanted.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, it's fine. If you have a quick question, no problem.
So I understand if you tell carrying information for the sake of creating tension.
Yes.
It's completely haram.
Yeah.
That's understood. What if you are delivering this like real report and say, hey, do you know what they're saying about you?
Yeah.
Is that allowed?
It depends on your intention.
My intention is good, meaning just delivering this information. Hey,
Yeah.
you need to take action because.
Yeah, for
people
sure. Why? Because you're trying to do islah.
Okay, yeah.
Right? Remember, we had talked about the situations where it's okay to backbite. One of those situations, if you're trying to bring people together, right? Or you're trying to correct somebody, right? If somebody needs to be corrected, if you come to me and be like, hey, listen, I saw your son doing XYZ. It's my obligation as a father to do what now? To talk to my son, right? And see like, hey, what's going on? I'm hearing X, I'm hearing this. Or your daughters are running in the musalla. You know what I mean? Fatihah.
Are paid informants an exception?
Paid informants. Why? What is the purpose of an informant?
To excrete information and bring it back
No, get information from who?
from the enemy side.
Oh no, I mean the enemy is very broad, but you usually people who are spreading societal ills,
Yeah,
right?
okay,
That's all. I mean, it's like spying.
yeah.
It's like spying. Spying against such people, to bring down organized crime and these type of things. Yeah, it's necessary. It's important.
If they're doing is doing a good work.
Yeah. So, alhamdulillah, they're keeping a great eye on Dar Hijra.
Yeah, except for the page known to create false information and take it back for the money.
That's
the
true.
problem with
So
the page
that's the
informants.
problem with
In our
informs, yeah.
context,
Yeah.
There have been publications that show that informants have taken liberty to create false information to get their paycheck.
Yeah, because there's a clear financial incentive for them.
Yeah.
Incentive is not, it's not to bring
It's not,
down crime.
no, it's not to bring down crime.
It's to fatten
money.
the pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Allah musta'an. Khair. If we don't have any other questions, we'll end here. I'll see you guys next week, inshallah. Subhanaka wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.